because the flip side is that these characteristics, these behaviors can lead to a dangerous path down the line if they're not
That's the
really
problem.
addressed. Um, but are we generalizing in assuming that, well, okay, this little boy is a little too aggressive, he might become whatever, you know what I mean? He might be a danger to society, or
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. That's exactly it. When you see certain characteristics that have been labeled as toxic male, toxic masculinity traits, then the second you see it in a little boy, you want to, pound it out of him. Well, maybe not pound, because that would be more toxic masculinity. But you just want to take it. You want to take it away and give him something else instead of saying, well, yeah, that's something that it's innate. He deals with his frustrations like that. It comes from within, and we need to harness that. We need to guide him into using it somewhere else, because the same characteristics that could become extremely negative down the line are also characteristics that could become positive down the line if dealt with appropriately. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's removing them. I think it's, like Chris was saying at the beginning, dealing with them and showing them a way to be.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to that, because I get the feeling that this is something that came from, I do believe it's from third wave feminists. I do believe it's from misandrous people, like man hating. There's a man hating ethos behind this. And I'm not trying to balance the scale, but you don't hear in mainstream media discourse, you don't hear toxic femininity. And all I'm saying is that you have female traits and attributes, and you have male traits and attributes and characteristics. And just to make maybe a bad analogy, it's almost like a weapon. Women have certain arsenal they can use. Men have certain tools they can use. It's almost like take a scissor, right? A scissor is kindly made to cut paper, but it can be used as a weapon. The idea is how to learn how to channel and understand when to use what. And what Alex is saying is you need those traits that you label as toxic. You need these for other situations. Obviously, extreme situations, maybe like war, jumping into a fire. A fireman goes in when everybody's coming out. You need that courage. That's a trait that we need to keep and protect, or else we're not going to survive, right? We're at this point today because certain male traits helped us achieve that. So I don't believe we should be condemning them like that. You understand?
Yeah. So what's the argument right now? What's the movement? Are we trying to, like Alex was saying, to kind of eradicate these things, or are we trying to educate?
Let me just finish this, Alex. And this is going to be just a precursor for you to say what you're going to say, Alex. We're against, or I'm against, and I'll have Alex say what she thinks. The solution. Sorry, guys. My dad was FaceTiming me. That's never happened. Yeah, I had to decline. Oh man, it was such a surprise. I lost my thought. Yeah, what I was trying to say is that I strongly disagree with the solution, which I think the idea, or at least I don't want to say agenda or program, but I think the idea is to try and feminize men. That means we have certain traits in women that kind of work, sensitivity, like awareness, right? There's different. Women have certain traits that are really, really, really good, and we need.
Yeah, but is that a fact, Chris? Is that what's really happening? Are we really trying to make boys more in touch?
This is not. I'm not saying it's a fact. This is, in my opinion, what I see it happening. Yeah. And when there's experts that can deal with certain things, and then there's activists that want to promulgate certain other things.
Yeah,
I'm always a believer of the scientific method, but there's certain things that kind of negate science when your whole purpose is just to be an activist about certain things because you want certain results in the world.
See,
right? So
here's what I don't understand about this concept. Are we worried so much about toxic masculinity that we're trying to make kids eliminate these feelings, or because of whatever worry might exist for a potential future, aggressive behavior, are we trying to educate boys on how to use it efficiently? Like the example that you gave with a scissor. Are we trying to eliminate scissors completely, or are we trying to tell them this is for this purpose?
I think it's twofold. I think people that are doing it properly are trying to show them how to use scissors properly.
Right.
And then I think there's the people that are just talking too loud right now that are trying to eliminate scissors altogether because they're too dangerous. I mean, dodgeball has been taken off of a lot of schoolyards because it was too dangerous.
Wow.
Maybe it's good, but maybe, a lot of people have gotten hurt from it. I don't know.
That's
But
fine.
is that the solution? Getting
Don't
rid of
play.
it altogether?
No, man, if you're afraid to get hurt, don't play. I don't understand. Okay.
Yeah, but the reason behind it, look, it hasn't come in our schoolyards yet, and I find that everything that kind of happens in the States trickles over to us a little bit later. So I think we're just we're looking out for it now, waiting for it to happen. Yeah, eliminating dodgeball from the schoolyard because it's an aggressive sport. Why? Because you're looking to hurt somebody else. You're looking to hit somebody else. So that's why it was completely eliminated. So that's an example of getting rid of the scissors altogether.
Yeah. But you see, I don't see dodgeball.
So I think it's both.
But
I don't see dodgeball like that. No, I'll tell you why. Because the point of the game is to get somebody with the ball. You have a target and you go after it. Now, it doesn't mean every time you throw the ball, you want to hurt somebody. Every time you throw the ball, there's a possibility or maybe a probability of hurting someone. Well, look, and that's everywhere. Because if we try and create a society where no one gets hurt, there's no harm ever done, all we need to do is create a giant aquarium, live in that little bubble, and then nothing will happen.
Look, Chris,
that's what
it only hurts when you get it in the face. That's
oh yeah,
wear a mask.
But that's what I was going to say. The reality, like the definition, yes, you try to take the ball and you got to get someone out. But let's be honest, when we used to play dodgeball, we wanted to put the ball through the person. It's like, I'm going to destroy you.
But that's fine. Okay, that's fine. That's competitive.
But yeah, that's exactly the reason why you want to do that. I never wanted to do that. I didn't even want to play dodgeball. I wanted to play when everybody was playing, but I didn't have that same drive to take the ball and get it through somebody. Yeah. So this is where people jump in and they'll say, well, that's a male characteristic and that's a dangerous characteristic. That's something that later on is going to become dominant and he's going to try to show dominance through aggression and violence. You see, but in reality, if kids play enough dodgeball, that's going to be, ça va se régler là, like it's going to be done there. Like that's where it's going to end.
Guys,
that's what comes to mind.
I have to be honest.
So you're saying let them get their dominant juices out of their system, and
I'm saying there needs to be places where they need to deal with this. Especially boys, they need to deal with it. They need to have their social rank as well. I mean, again, we're talking about a lot of stuff that seemed to be so obvious decades ago, and right now they're super controversial. What we're saying, having boys try to see where they rank is not an appropriate conversation to be having. But it's something that happened so naturally on the schoolyard.
But now that you mentioned like the decades ago kind of thing, is there still that movement that existed probably like before this term came to be, where kids are still pushed? Like, for example, you're not allowed to cry. You got to be tough. You're the man. Like, because that's pretty much how this whole movement started, right? There was this social pressure of having to be like this, and people realize that, look, certain kids aren't like that. Like, you can't just be tough all the time, or you can't be the fastest. You can't be the strongest. You can't just hold back your tears or hold back your emotions because you're a man or a kid. Is that still happening?
Well, that is why the American Psychological Association took that term. That is why they're dealing with this. They set out guidelines on how to deal with kids that are having those issues.
Right.
So they're doing a good job. I mean, there's a lot of societal pressure on boys and on girls too. They're just different. And because they acknowledge the fact that they aren't going to deal with them the same way, and because they're not dealing with the same societal pressures, that's why they came out with those guidelines. So they're doing a good job on working on a one-to-one basis, on a case-per-case study for kids that are dealing with these kind of feelings, like the ones you just mentioned, George. Yeah. And there's a lot of negative effects when a boy or a man wants to be traditionally male, when it's not coming from within, that is an issue. Absolutely. The problem that we're talking about is when it's taken very superficially, very lightly, and we just want to take the scissors away from everybody, instead of dealing with it on a case-to-case basis. That's the problem. So it's twofold.
That's the problem.
It's two very different things.